Hi, Kathy here from Kathy's Cute Creations. So I found the little snippet of a clip that shows me starting with the white fabric. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to continue with the rest of the fabric. My street outside is total ice. I attempted to go to work, got stuck on the street. My tires were spinning. So I slowly started reversing back down the road. And when I did, I hit a probably black ice because that's the stuff that makes you slide. And on my street, the left-hand side of the street has all the cars parked. The right hand doesn't. That's where the driveways are and the cross streets. So I went ahead and I stopped the car, tried to turn the wheels to get it to go backwards, and it kept going to a car on the left. If I can manage to slip a picture in here, the car on the right at the back end of my vehicle is the one I almost hit because like I said, it was total slick. I had no control. I put my brake on, called my daughter and my granddaughter to come out and help me. So they came out. My daughter saw something on TikTok last night, and it is the windshield wiper fluid. You take it and you pour it down on the ice right where the tires are, and it literally starts melting the ice immediately. So it's like straight alcohol. Anywho, so she did that for the front and the back tire. My granddaughter was on the left-hand side, making sure I didn't hit the car. And she tells me in the window, "It's okay if you hit me, Grandma. Don't worry about it." It's like, she is so freaking sweet. It's like, I'm not going to hit you with my car. So anyway, my daughter's in the back. I got the windows rolled down, and she's guiding me over to the little bit, and when I say a little bit, it's about this much, of a little path of snow where the snow plow came through and pushed the snow. So that's what's up against the car. So I was about this far away from the car, and I'm going to tell you, my stomach was killing me because all I could think is if it slipped and it got off that little snow, it was going to hit a car. So I'm slowly backing it up, and I went just as slow as you could go. Almost, it wasn't even in a gear. It was, I put it in a gear on low, but it was like crawling, and I got it back. And I said, as soon as I get down to the street where I could get the cross street, I said, I want to be able to back it into the cross street. Well, now the tricky part is you have to get away from that car on the left because you're inches away from the car. And if you just turn your wheels, you'll just scrape the whole side of the car turning. So we made sure that I was in a spot. She said, well, there's a couple of snow spots, so go ahead and we'll get on the snow. And I managed to back up. And I said, well, watch that car behind me because I couldn't clear it. There was a car right there on the corner. And so she said, well, stop. Can you go forward? And I said, yeah, I can go forward. Hold on. I'm going to go real slow. So I went forward, backed it up again, and went right back down the street, probably maybe 6 or 7 feet from that intersection is actually the alley for me to get back in to park my car. So I slowly made the corner, went back down my alley, and put it right back into my garage. Then I had to call in to work. So I'm home sewing today. That's the reason I'm trying to get this fabric cut out, because video was going to go up last Monday. That's what the plans were. So, of course, I worked diligently on Sunday, cut the fabric for week 1, did the blocks for week 1, send my link, and then they notified me immediately, don't put it up on Monday. Wait, we're going to do it the next Monday. So then I decided that this weekend, when I had off, I would go ahead and cut. But now that I've had to take today off, I'm going to go ahead and cut and try to do the next week's blocks. Because I'm going to have a seminar between all this cutting and sewing these weekends. I'm going to have a seminar in one of them, which takes up Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, which only leaves me Saturday afternoon and Sunday to get anything done. And you know, I'm having internet problems, so I have to get this stuff done and get it uploaded. That's why my very first video, first one, week 1, was 7 minutes, because I'm scared to death it's going to take all day to upload it. All right, so let me, if I got any problems that I run into, I'll show you, but I'm going to lay and what I'm doing is I'm doing it in order by this paper here, which you guys would have already had on week 1, this one here. So I started here, and this is what I'm doing. I'm just literally doing B. I've already cut the whole thing out. Last week I explained it to you that I cut out B, C, D, and E. All the fabrics, all the subcuts, everything. Not just pieces of it, the whole thing. Set aside the extras. So in week 2, I see that B, you need the 16, 8.5 by 8.5 inches. Already got it cut out. It's set aside. So I'm doing F, G, H just for this week. Then I'm going to go to the next one and do, I've already got A and C, so it'll be I. And then I'll go down to the last one. That's how I'm cutting each week's fabric out. The whole thing, not a piece of it, okay? So that's where we're at. And the first one I'm doing, which is F, is this color right here. So let me go ahead and get started. I'm already 5 minutes into the film, counting, trying to slip a picture in, and the last little seconds, it's a couple seconds of showing you how I cut it the first time around. If I run into any problems, I will let you know, because I want to go ahead and show you after I get all this done how it's on my design board. I mean, my little board in weeks. Alrighty, so we're going to line up our fabric, and I go down here and I put it right here on the, trying to get that light off, the reflection, right on the line, and make sure the fabric is on both sides, because this is folded all the way to the end, and then cut that strip off and then begin cutting. Back real quick. Now when you're cutting the fabric out, do not use this sheet to cut your fabric. Don't look at this fabric and say, oh, F, I need 4 8.5 by 8.5 squares. That's not what you do. You take this sheet right here, go to F, which is right there where it says red sprinkles, and yes, it is 8.5 by 8.5. So the next one is G. So when I go to G, well, it looks like it's going to be pretty easy. Let me see what H is. Oh, well, G and H is the same thing, so I guess you could have done that. But let's say that you were doing, right now, you're doing B, okay? For example, you wouldn't take B and cut automatically 16 3.5 by 3.5 inch squares, and then 64 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares, because that would mess up your fabric. You would literally need to go with this and do B and do 4 8.5 strips first, because then you're going to subcut them into 16 8.5 inch squares. Then you're going to cut 8 3.5 by 3.5. Okay? You can get your leftover strips. Here's 3.5 inch strip. I hope this is not too confusing. This is 3.5 inch strip. You won't need to cut one 3.5 inch strips. I literally got, if you cut it right, take your 4 8.5 inch strips. You can get 16 8.5 inch squares, and you can get 8 3.5s and another 8 3.5s. Because out of the first out of the first 2 fabrics, you can get 8 8.5 inch squares and 8 3.5 inch. Just do it first. Do just this. Take your 4, cut your 8.5 inch squares. Subcut 16 8.5 by 8.5 inches. Take your leftover from this, okay, because you're going to get 2 sets, and then turn around and cut out 8 3.5 by 3.5 inch squares. Okay, that's from the remainder. Then whatever fabric you have left over from this, go ahead and you should be able to get 8 more 3.5 by 3.5 without cutting a strip. If you have to cut the strip, that's fine. But when I did it, I did not have to cut that extra strip. Then I cut 4 2.5 inch strips and subcut it into 64 2.5 inch strips. You can try that first, and then your leftover piece will be bigger than a 3.5 inch strip. Okay, if everybody understands that, I feel like I'm rattling and you're not understanding. And of course I can't show you because I've already done it. So sorry about that, but it's just been a mess at the very beginning of this whole entire project. But that's okay, moving forward. Thanks for being understanding. Alrighty, I squared it up and then I lay it out like this. I will cut my selvage off, and then I will measure up with this ruler here, right here. I'm going to pretend I cut it right here where the selvage is at. So I would take this 8.5, put it on the edge right there. Now note, I'm trying to get the lights off. It's hard and heck. All right. We're looking at this. Here's the 8.5, and notice I have it on the fabric. See it on the fabric? That's how I like it. And then I will cut it. This will give me 2. We only need 4. Okay? Alrighty, for the newbies, I always put my fold down here, and the selvage, which is the piece that has the writing on it, up at the top. If I can grab it. Okay, that's the selvage. Got all the little bitty holes in it. See it? All along there, the little holes. Okay. And then when I square it up by cutting off the edge here, then I'll turn it and take the selvage off before I do my first cut. So I cut my 4 strips. I took my sheet here, cut it 1 strip of 8.5, cut out 4, my last piece was 1, which is 5. The directions say we need 6. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. After I cut off the first 8.5 inch, I'm going to take this. I've already done it, so I'm showing you what I did. Fold it back. I measured from here to here, 8.5. Cut the whole thing. Turned it sideways like this. Well, actually, I turned it this way because I'm right-handed. Laid my ruler down from here to there and cut that off. And there is my 8.5 inch block. Hope I'm not making anybody dizzy. Now let me show you my fabric. So if you're creating a stash, this is a really nice piece of fabric to have left over. We're going to do H the same exact way. It's the same amount of pieces. It's 6 8.5 by 8.5 inch squares. G and H are the same. So I have the design board here for week 2 and week 3. And then this is week 4, which is the assembly. So these are the assembly pieces. There's only 2 colors. This will be on the outside of the quilt, and then that'll be the binding, I think. Yep, that's the binding. I love that binding right there, that color. So there we go. Got it all cut out, and I'll have it up. Now, this should have been the first video, but it's actually the second video. So what I'm going to do, I'm making it second. Not that it's the second video. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it up first before I put the other video up. So they'll both be up at 10. And if you want to watch the cutting and me explaining all that, this is the one you watch. If not, you want to jump right to it, then go to the very next one. Okay? I just wanted to say that because it's a long story, but never mind. And I will see you next week for week 2 of Matters of the Heart with Fort Worth Fabric Studio. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Bye-bye.